Here we are in May. We've been stuck indoors for the last 8 months or so, and we have the summer ahead of us. Traditionally a time for hospitality, entertainment, and generally having fun. A lot of us like a glass of wine now and again, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome one of the region's leading independent wine retailers, Phil Innes of Loki Wines. Phil, welcome to the show.
Welcome. I must admit, for me, the hospitality never stops. But
I've heard that about you, Phil. I've heard that about you. No. But do tell us a little bit about Loki Wines. You know, when did the journey start, and how did it come about, and how things have changed? Give us a little rundown.
So I set up my first store in 2012, based in Great Western Arcade. The store's still there now. The aim really was to sell great quality wine, but also take the snobbery out of wine and just make it a bit more accessible for people. I was really fed up with that kind of traditional way that people talk about wine, and I just wanted to make it a bit more youthful. It doesn't look like it now, obviously, 12 years later, but I was a young whippersnapper, and I just really want to introduce people to wine. So from there, now we have 3 sites, one in Edgbaston and one in Knowle in Solihull, and hopefully a few more in the pipeline later on.
Very exciting, excellent. And Phil, you've had, we've all had our challenges, but I imagine for you in particular, we had COVID, and now we've got cost of living crisis. How have drinking habits changed for society, would you say, particularly with wine, over the last 3-4 years?
Yeah, well, I think with the wine element, it may have even started before then. Actually, certainly for Birmingham, when I set up, there wasn't a huge wine culture in Birmingham, and now we're finding that there's lots of people drinking wine. Obviously, this used to be out, and with our business, we do drinking on site in a bar, but also the retail element. And during COVID, when we're all locked down, you had no option but to drink copious amounts of wine at home. But that habit has actually kind of stuck as well, and it's amazing to think. So we started doing virtual wine tastings during the lockdown, and all of a sudden we're still doing them now, and we do them once a month with 60 people attending usually. And if you'd told me before the COVID lockdown that we were going to do tastings on Zoom, I would have said that you're absolutely mad. No one wants to attend that. But actually, people have got in the habit of being at home and realised that actually they can enjoy a really good glass of wine at retail price in their comfortable home rather than going out to a bar. Although I must admit, I still do like going out in public. So.
But even, a pint of beer costs a lot these days. Yep. So it's not the kind of the extravagant way to entertain and to drink that used to be, is it drinking, having a bottle of wine with the wife or with friends.
Yeah, exactly. You should be able to get a really good bottle of wine for £10 to £20. I usually say £10 really is the minimum you should spend if you factor in the cost of grapes, the cost of shipping, and the cost of glass. Yeah, £10 really to get a good quality wine is a minimum.
I mean, and has the price of wine gone up exponentially like it has food and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, we've been hit with, obviously don't want to mention the B word, but Brexit, which had an instant impact. Obviously, we import most of our wine, and the currency hasn't been performing as well as other currencies. We also have the inflationary factors, which include the cost of glass has gone up by, would you believe, 70%. So right. even that factor has massively increased the cost. So we've been trying to keep it at about 15% rises, or trying to just source a bit more savvy and use our skills and experience to try to get better wines at a lower price.
And before we come to the really fun bit, your clientele at Loki, you do, obviously it's a big private client list. What about trade? What about events and hotels and bars and so forth?
I mean, we do a huge number of events. I mean, one of the cornerstones of a business is really trying to always do education, events, that sort of thing. We do wine tasting dinners, link ups with various restaurants around Birmingham, as well as some really, really big events. So we do some 800 people events, our summer wine fair and Christmas wine fair, where we showcase 400 of our wines and spirits for people to try. So.
Okay. Well, that's the interesting part. Now for the fun part. I'm delighted to welcome David and Martha from our host, Liquid, because we're going to do a bit of wine sampling. Phil's picked 4 bottles, contrasting good value, delicious summer wines, Phil.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to sort of take us through them.
Absolutely. I'll pour it first. That's the most important thing.
God, this is a treat this afternoon, isn't it? Eh?
It really
Wow.
is.
Thank you.
There we go. So I thought with the first wine, we'd play a bit safe, and we all know New Zealand Sauvignon. And I've really been trying to grind down into New Zealand Sauvignon, kind of what's the best terroir, what's the best style. I don't want something that's really kind of too fruity, too punchy, too, like, kind of, hate to say it, but cat pee. I want something that's quite kind of fresh and fruity, good acidity. Bab Beach, their reserve level, their black label, really performs on that. So it's mainly Wairal fruit, which is a Grand Cru of Marlborough. And they do extra lees aging, so you get that texture on the palate. And texture, I think, is really, really important.
You get it really coming through on the
Yeah.
nose. Can we taste?
Should we get the spittoon over, actually? After this? Thank you.
So you've got that really lovely punchy fruit, haven't you? But then
Wow.
just that layer, that really, like, nice smooth layer.
You think when you smell, you think it's going to be quite grassy and leafy, but it isn't. It's much. You've got those aromas, but at the same time, when you taste it, it's a real smoothness on the palate.
A bit restrained.
Yeah.
Is there
Absolutely.
is there a particular type of food you would recommend this goes with?
I'd say anything with goat's cheese. And in the summer, I love goat's cheese. So like a goat's cheese tart or something like that is
Yeah.
spectacular.
Absolutely.
It's very refreshing.
Yeah. Hopefully Chef has got some in the oven.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd love to. Should have known earlier, shouldn't I? Beautiful piece of halibut would go wonderful with this as well. You know.
What do you think, Martha?
It's lovely. It's quite creamy,
Yeah.
actually, for a white.
So the creaminess, that's all to do with the lees. So the lees is basically just the grape skins, and so there's no oak or anything in it to get that. They literally just push the grape skins over it, and that gives you that texture. It's incredible.
Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And the difference between, people see a label and it says reserve. If they're looking at reserve, what should that mean to them when they see that on the label?
I mean, it's a very interesting question, because legally in most places, especially the New World, it doesn't actually mean anything. So you need to trust the vineyard that it is a genuine reserve. Quite often you'll see producers will put winemaker's selection or special reserve on their label. That's not a legal term, and you need to trust them that it is actually a genuine reserve, not something that they're trying to sell as a reserve.
That's interesting.
And what sort of retail price are we looking at, Phil?
So $17.99 for that, which I think now for New Zealand Sauvignon,
It's good
the
value.
reserve level is
Really
great,
good
great
value. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Right, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Excellent. So we now have.
We now have. Do you mind using the same glass?
No, of course not. No. We love to save the washing up.
Yeah, exactly. Save the environment. So with this one, we have Rioja Rosé. Now, Rioja Rosé is becoming one of the really fashionable wines. You don't usually know, you know Rioja as red wine usually, and usually quite oaky red wines, whereas Rosé is kind of the perfect fit for Rioja. So one of the main grape varieties in Rioja is Garnacha, which is Grenache in France, and it's the main grape variety for making Provence Rosé. So basically you get this nice pale colour. This is kind of a fashionable style at the moment, but I think because of a slight more warmth in Rioja, let's get a bit more fruitiness than in Provence.
That is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely. Spittoon shouldn't be here, but obviously, you know. But that is just a beautiful wine, isn't it? It's really elegant. It's fresh.
But it's not over floral, which I found a bit of a problem with some rosés, isn't it?
But I find you definitely get that almost strawberries and cream. So the cream just texturally not tasting like cream, but then you've got those like lovely strawberries.
Yeah,
It's
comes
still coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even now, even though you're not drinking it, you still got that beautiful taste afterwards.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually something that we really focus on when we talk about quality in wine. It's talking about what we call the length in wine, how long the wine persists on your palate for. And one of the key things of a good quality wine is the length of that wine stays in your palate. I think this, for a £15 wine, stays in your palate for a really, really long time. It really signifies the quality.
I've got a fantastic, cloudless afternoon, sitting outside, a nibble or two. That's job done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I must admit, I'm still a rosé in the
Morning?
kind of rosé all year round kind of guy. But
Me too.
I think rosé is moving from that summertime drink to all year.
There's actually no reason at all, is there?
And it's the education of a rosé, isn't it? You know, my next door neighbour's 87, and they say, Don, would you like a glass of? And he's always is it in Vandel? And then actually, when you taste the blush and you taste real quality rosé, even educating somebody at 87 is kind of you can appreciate that. And I think you'd like anything to do with food or wine, it's education. That's why we need great suppliers like yourself.
Yeah.
What do you think, Martha? Is this one you would?
Yeah, I would. I do like a pale rosé, but it's lovely because it's not as dry as the other paler ones. It's not easier to drink, I think.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the fruit level, they actually have fermented this to complete dryness and sugar level, but because the fruit is so much riper and fruitier than you'd say get from south of France, you're actually ending up with that appearance of some fruit sweetness, even though actually you don't need to have the naughty sugar in there, which is even better, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was.
Shall we go on to the red and do the alcohol-free
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
at the end?
Yep.
Yeah.
I might just empty that out, actually, that's okay.
Thanks, Mark.
This is the student days. I'd have paid for that.
Oh gosh, yeah. That'd have gone in a jug separate, wouldn't it?
So now we've got a really kind of special wine for me. It's from Calabria in Italy. Now, most people don't know very much about Calabria apart from the mafia, but they make incredible wine. And one of the problems with the area is, unlike a lot of the wealthy northern regions, they just haven't had the budgets to promote themselves and the joined up thinking. And this producer, Librandi, have been one of the pioneers, first of all, of sustainability. So they're the first biodynamic and sustainable certified vineyard in the area. But they're also head of the association that's really trying to promote the wider area. It's the poorest area in Italy, Calabria, and really they are pioneers of getting these wines known around the world. And they have this amazing area called Ciro, where this wine is from, and the grape variety is Gaglioppo. You wouldn't have heard of it,
Wow.
but it's their local indigenous variety. It's very much, if you look at it, like a Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Now, in summertime, I'd serve this very slightly chilled. And I think one of the things that we're not very good at in the UK is serving wine at the correct temperature. We usually serve white wine far too cold, and then red wine far too warm. And we get a bit nervous about putting red wine in the fridge, but I think in the summer, it's absolutely perfect because you want this wine to be served. I'd serve this at about 15 degrees, which is about the temperature it is now. And you want that little bit of refreshing note to it. So if you think 15 degrees, if it's 25 degrees outside, that's a good 20 minutes in the fridge to get that temperature down. But don't be shy about refrigerating your wine. I think it's actually a very important thing to do, especially when it's hot, if we ever get a warm day. So yeah, so
I think that's absolutely lovely.
so light and soft, like a Pinot.
Wow, that's superb, isn't
Yeah.
it?
But it's still got a bit of tannin, and that's why I really want to show this wine, because it's $13.99, and for a barbecue or something like that, it can, because of the tannin, it can cope with some grilled meats. You can serve it slightly chilled. It's not going to make you feel like you're drinking
That's
something
incredible
heavy.
value, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible value, because you go to the supermarket and you anything under £10 is usually very, very average, isn't it? You know, and I think that is absolutely gorgeous, and it's also a grape that I would have never have known about at all, which is really interesting.
Is this a new one, Phil, for you? Or?
No, we've supported this producer, since the beginning actually. So we're nearly 12 years now we've stocked this wine, but it's only just really coming about, thanks to actually a lot of the work that they're doing. Just getting the name out there is all very well and good, us shouting about it, but you need other people to know about it as well.
So this time next year it'll be double the price.
Maybe, yeah. I will put reserve on the bottle.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So what do you think when somebody has a glass of white wine and they go and throw an ice cube in it or something like that? It's like, for me, it's like, oh my goodness me, what are you doing there? You know?
Yeah, for me, I think I'm not going to judge people for drinking wine the way they want to drink it. However, I'd always advise people not to do it. If the wine quality is such that you have to have it ice cold, nearly frozen, maybe just drink something a tiny bit better quality so you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And then it really pains me when people put a very, very, very complex, great, expensive wine and put it in an ice bucket, put ice in it, and you just think, you've wasted your money. Why are you spending £100 on a bottle and serving it like that? You might as well just spend £10 on a bottle if you're going to do that. Because at the end of the day, if you're chilling it down, you're reducing the flavour, like with anything. You're reducing the flavour and you're masking a lot of in a poor wine, you're masking a lot of the nasty bits, but in a good wine, you're masking a lot of the nice bits.
My father used to put, I thought, really nice red wine on a radiator. And when you have it, you could kind of sort of see the condensation on the outside. It's like drinking sort of fairly warm tea. But I mean, that was probably a complete no-no for the purists.
That's the problem. People, I said we serve red wine too warm. Normal red wine should be served at 18 degrees. Now, think about how hot you have your thermostat at home, even in winter, or how hot this room is now. It's probably, it will be above 18 degrees.
Yeah.
So that's the recommended serving temperature, and that's keeping everything in balance. The instant you increase the temperature of your red wine, you're making the alcohol show a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're making the tannin show a lot more. Some people like high alcohol and high tannins, so maybe you do want to serve it warm. But for me, I like taste of wine in balance.
I think the wine tastings that you must do with this is part of the education, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a young chef, I'd have had a beer. That would be about the maximum there. And the sommelier, the ones came in and said, "What are you drinking that for?" And I went, "Well, I don't know nothing about wine." And he used to just give me a little bit and explain to me about the grape. And I kind of, a wine tasting for me as a 20-odd-year-old chef was never going to happen. Till now, I like to collect, what I like.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of it, I think that education is the most important thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And even that last one, that would be great for people who think they don't like red wine.
100%.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
introduction.
100%, because there's so many people who don't like red wine, because if you go to your average pub or something like that, the only red wines you can get are Malbec, Merlot, Cabernet, all really full-bodied wines. And actually, a lot of people just think that red wine is Malbec, for example.
Yeah, really heavy.
Yeah,
and
really
big.
heavy. And actually, there's so many different styles of wine out there.
Well, I'm certainly going to be giving you my custom for that one. I love that. That's not just a plug, I promise you. Let's move on to the virtuous one.
Yeah. So this is the alcohol-free wine. Now, this is a huge category now, and at Loki we have a principle that we don't stock anything for for the sake of it. It needs to be based on quality. So there have been a lot of alcohol-free wines on the market that I just did not want to stock because I didn't think they fit the quality bracket. And these guys were the first people who actually
What do they call it?
actually did Zeno.
Right.
So what one of the issues always with the alcohol-free wine is that when you remove the alcohol from the product, you're also removing quite a lot of the body and the structure of the wine. So to replace that, often, well, you have to add sugar into the wine, and that usually makes them very, very sweet. Now, this wine is the lowest sugar level on the market of any alcohol-free wine at the moment, and it recently won Best Alcohol-Free Wine at International Wine and Spirit Challenge. So hopefully you enjoy it. So again, there's nothing added to it. It is just Garnacha, so the same grape variety as in the rosé, actually from a similar area as well in Spain. But yeah, I think it tastes really nice, a bit of spice in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's actually far nicer and fuller than I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a natural, just a fruit taste.
Yeah.
That's what kind of tastes fruity, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've tried to find a good, because I've had 2 pregnancies, so I've tried to find good alcohol-free wines when I was pregnant, and I've had to pour some bottles on the sink. No, it just tastes like sugar water.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find a good bottle.
Yeah. So they still add sugar into this, but it's the lowest on the market. I don't think you can overtly taste the sugar in it.
No,
No.
I like it actually, and nor is it sort of, nor is it too tart. It's interesting.
It's a great
Yeah.
option, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
It
exactly
tastes like
what
wine.
you talked about. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're seeing a massive growth in it. It actually started, the whole alcohol-free thing started actually a lot with pregnant women, and we had lots of people coming in asking for it. But now I think a lot of people are saying, buying a bottle of wine, sharing it with a friend, and then buying an alcohol-free wine as their second bottle just to lower their alcohol intake but still enjoy a glass of wine. So it's really shifted from that solely pregnant women to actually the wider population. I think there are a lot of really, really exciting alcohol-free products coming onto the market at the moment.
How much is that, Phil?
That is £20.
I mean, it's a nice thing to have a glass of wine. If you've got to go driving in the evening, but you kind of want a glass of wine as well, that would fit the bill.
Great alternative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you. Thanks very much indeed. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that's given you a bit of food for thought. And I look forward to welcoming Phil back, maybe early winter. We'll have a look at some of your tips for the winter and Christmas. But hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.